Hello, welcome back here into Caden's Weather Center. Right now today we are doing coverage here on Tropical Storm ERIN as we're continuing to pay attention to the system as it continues to move westward throughout the Atlantic and also posing a threat here possible to the islands, maybe even the Bahamas and the east coast of the United States. We're going to talk about the latest here. We're going to go over the latest information and all the model runs and the trends that we've been seeing with a westward push here on these models. We're going to take a look at that here. Today is August 14, 2025. Welcome back here into Caden's Weather Center right now. Today we're going to be paying attention obviously to the tropics, but also touching up a little bit on what the United States is kind of looking at right now with its weather. So jumping right into it, let's just jump right into it. You can clearly see a lot of rainfall kind of continuing on, some scattered showers, thunderstorms continuing on over here in the central part of the United States. That does include parts of western North Dakota, eastern South Dakota, and even parts of eastern Nebraska getting some of those showers and thunderstorms. That will all eventually make its way into the Iowa region right there to bring some heavy thunderstorms even into Des Moines area. But we also are going to be seeing a little bit of that severe weather threat today going through the North Dakota area. We're going to be seeing a little bit more of those scattered showers and thunderstorms being pretty more active there, bringing some gusty winds and maybe some small hail possible at that time. Taking a look down here, the northeast looking fairly quiet, some rain showers kind of continuing on, the west coast looking very quiet, not much going on over there. But the southeast having a little bit of scattered showers, thunderstorms continuing on, stretching all the way from South Carolina into Louisiana, even parts of maybe even eastern Texas, as well as the Florida Peninsula with those sea breeze thunderstorms that are going to be starting up later this afternoon as well. Taking a look at the tropics, we can obviously see we have Invest 98L, I believe, that is continuing on currently right now, heading into the Gulf here. I believe it has emerged off, and it has right over here in this region. It's going to continue to push off over here to the northwest. Some models bring it up into a tropical storm, but majority keep them kind of at a tropical depression at most. But then we obviously have Tropical Storm ERIN. That's going to be our main focus. Where is it going? The National Hurricane Center kind of pushes their cone a little bit more off to the west as of the 11 a.m. advisory that just came out not too long ago from the start of this video. But obviously, once again, big cone of uncertainty still at that 5-day mark. That could, is the storm going to go more on the southern side or even on the eastern side of the cone? Very big questions are still on the table here, especially for the eastern United States, as well as even these islands down here, including the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Big questions are on the table. Taking a look at the satellite picture, though, we could clearly see a lot going on. Tropical Storm ERIN kind of just hanging out here in the mid-Atlantic right there. That's continuing to move off to the west here. Not a west-northwest yet motion from what the National Hurricane Center was seeing. A little bit of that spin on Invest 98L that is continuing on right now. That's going to continue to make its way and bring a lot of tropical moisture into the Texas region. So regardless of that development, some heavy rainfall could also be seen in parts of northern Mexico here, as well into southern and eastern Texas. But obviously Tropical Storm ERIN is going to be our main focus here as that continues to move off to the west here. And then we have more tropical waves that haven't been marked by the National Hurricane Center, but something still to pay attention to as those continue to push off to the west as well. We have a lot to be paying attention to with Tropical Storm ERIN, but taking a look here at the clear satellite picture, we could obviously see there's that Invest 98L, there's Tropical Storm ERIN looking a little bit more off to the organized kind of look here as it continues to move off to the west, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a hurricane maybe even heading into later tonight, even into early tomorrow as well. Let's take a little bit of a closer look right here. We could see a lot of convection starting to really ramp up here on Tropical Storm ERIN. We can see it continuing to move off that eastward motion here. We're not seeing it kind of continuing to gain that latitude yet. We're not seeing that yet, which is kind of a little bit of a concerning problem because the more west it goes, the more those models are going to shift. We know that the National Hurricane Center is sending planes into it here later this I believe this afternoon. We're going to be seeing some planes going into it, and that should help out the models very, very well. And that'll give us a little bit more of a general idea on what we could be expecting here. But so far with the storm still kind of continuing on at west here, maybe even west-southwest at some points, maybe a little bit of a wobble there, but definitely is getting well defined right now here. Over the last couple of hours, we've been seeing a lot of that deep convection starting to blow up, and that does show some signs of intensity continuing to rise up with that. As of the 11 a.m. advisory here, this is advisory 13 here from the National Hurricane Center. Storm movement still moving west at 17. That is a little bit of a concern because we know that we are expecting this to change that course to west-northwest, and the GFS model has been a little confused on that, already bringing it to that west-northwest course, but obviously we know the storm is continuing to move off to the west here. So, but once again, continuing to pay attention to a major hurricane expected here possibly by maybe late Saturday night heading into early Sunday. That's when we're expecting that major hurricane status, but obviously major hurricane going to be east of the Bahamas as well as we head into early next week. But still, once again, big questions still on the table on where this possibly goes, as we still have very spread out models, and that's why the cone of uncertainty very big at this time still. Not a lot of confidence with this storm, and we're hoping when the planes get in there, we'll see a little bit more confidence coming in with these tracks. But to talk about here, the cone, once again, we're expecting it to become a hurricane maybe by early tomorrow morning. Obviously needs to, start taking that west-northwestward push here to start following this track, because I would say right now it's kind of more following on the southern side. The more southern side of this cone that it goes, the more impacts that we could be seeing here in parts of the eastern Dominican Republic, as well as Puerto Rico, and even in the islands here we could be seeing. And then same with the Bahamas, could be also getting some impacts here if the storm continues to move off to the west, because it keeps moving off to the west. The cone will have to eventually keep kind of following with it and going to the west there slightly. I'm not saying any major concerns of a major western push, but it all depends on when it turns there. That's going to be a big key factor on the track. Taking a look here at the tropical storm wind speed probabilities here, the possibilities for some tropical storm winds, we could see some chances are over there for the Bahamas. We could clearly see that, but we also see that the chances for Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic have kind of stayed relatively same. Maybe Puerto Rico got a little bit more up chances than we did in the last video that I did yesterday. Reaching around 40% now, but some of the islands also possibly even reaching up almost into 50% chance here of some tropical storm conditions there. Something to pay attention to. But as you can see with the 24-hour mark here, according to some of these spaghetti models, we can obviously see that there's still a little bit of a spread at 24 hours out with this storm as it continues. But once again, majority of these models are waiting for that west-northwestern push as well, and that's kind of something that we're watching closely here. We're still seeing the storm kind of go off to the west here, and that's kind of what we're paying attention to closely. And that's what's going to change some of these forecasts. Now, I wouldn't say it's going to impact these islands or even head into the Caribbean, but definitely is a little bit late on that west-northwest turn, and that is going to impact on some of these models going even more to the west here. And that's kind of what we're going to be taking a look. There's Bermuda right there. You can definitely see majority of those models now taking it west of the islands, kind of between the United States and Bermuda. We have some of the farther models over here. We have the UK model, that blue one right there. That's more on the western side of these models as well. But the GFS and the CMC are more on the eastern side of this. But you have some of those hurricane models bringing it more down to the south than some of these models, and that's something that we've been continuing to pay attention to, and that would be that purple model right there, as well as that shaded green one right there. That's going to bring it more down to the south here, and it's kind of keeping it more of a southern storm more than what the models are anticipating here, and that's something that we need to be keeping an eye on, because so far those have been doing pretty good on this storm here, especially the halves A. That has been doing really well, especially with the development of the convection last night. We were taking a look at that. But taking a look at the GFS ensembles, we can obviously see majority of the ensembles have pushed over to the west. That does put it more closer to a threat here of the east coast of the United States, but we can obviously see that Bermuda not too much in play anymore with this, as we've seen majority of these areas kind of just shift to the west here, and that brings still a major hurricane in these areas. We could be still seeing major hurricane winds wherever the storm goes. Obviously, it's pretty rare at this time that it would make a direct landfall maybe in the United States or even in Bermuda, but still some tropical storm force winds could be expected if it goes on the eastern side of these models. Tropical storm, maybe even hurricane force winds could be definitely expected there. Same thing if it goes on the vice versa other side here, we could see definitely some hurricane, maybe tropical storm conditions as well. But no matter what, we're going to see some massive waves that is going to happen. Right now, taking a look here at the kind of intensity models, kind of to give us a general idea here. We're expecting still mostly just a category 3, getting up to that National Hurricane Center, starting to think maybe a possible category 4 could be possible, still having it at that category 3 range, but right on the bare minimum there of a category 4. We can see the CMC and the UK model really bringing it down into the lower end here, and the CMC has been very low on the intensity of the storm, so that's definitely something to pay attention to with the Canadian model. But taking a look at the storm right now, going through normalized temperatures for the season. Once it starts to get up right over here above the islands, now it's in above average water temperatures that we could see. And all of this orange right here, and even in the Gulf, we're seeing a lot more of those above average normal temperatures during this time of year. And you take a look at the actual water temperatures, and you can clearly see with some of these water temperatures that, especially the Gulf, you can see how very, very warm it is there. But even off into the Atlantic on where the storm is going, where ERIN's going, 30 degrees Celsius, bringing it 29 as well, maybe even some areas reaching up to 31 degrees Celsius. That is some pretty warm water for Tropical Storm ERIN to continue to strengthen in, obviously, very closely there. Taking a look at the GFS model, we can clearly see kind of following a little bit more. It's definitely very on, I would say, with the intensity so far with 999 millibars there as we got that update in. But the GFS already bringing it up that northwestward approach, but it's not up that northwestward approach yet. 951 millibars here, expected August 18th here in the next 108 hours. In the next 5 days, we're expecting that turn to start happening according to the GFS, and that's something we're going to pay attention to, because obviously that's going to be our big factor, is when does this turn happen. Now this does bring it on just west of Bermuda as a 939 millibar hurricane, so very, very strong hurricane. But that doesn't mean that Bermuda will be right outside of the impact. Definitely will get some pretty big impact still from Hurricane ERIN at that time. Then it races off to the northeast as well. We're going to continue to pay attention to that very, very closely. Obviously, we're seeing a lot going on with the steering currents. That's kind of what we're seeing to make this storm go more off to the west than getting right pulled to the north. But obviously, we know stronger storms tend to get pulled more to the north, and that is a fact with that. And right now, it has taken a little bit of time to strengthen due to especially how fast it's been going, as well as just depending on the environment that it's going as well to make it get pulled to the north. But taking a look at this, 1,000 millibars right now. The Euro kind of a little bit more up on the millibars here of the storm. Maybe a little bit of a weaker system according to the Euro. But kind of can see it hangs out there maybe for a little bit for some hours and then kind of gets pulled off to the north. Kind of around the GFS area. Now, the European model yesterday was very, very far westward and really did start impacting here the east coast of the United States. But not expecting that at this time with the European model, as it did shift back to the east. But still, once again, there's Bermuda here according to the European model, the 6Z. August 20th, we could see 947 millibar hurricane, so maybe a slightly weaker of a system compared to the GFS, but still very close to the eastern coast here of the United States. Not as close as it was yesterday, but still fairly close to bring some major beach impacts as well. Taking a look here at the tropical hazards outlook, what are we looking at here? This goes up, updates every Tuesday. We can see over here August 20th through the 26th, we're expecting some of that tropical development to start coming off Africa at this time of year. We're going to be starting to see that as we head into next week. We could be seeing another tropical system. Big question is, does it get pulled out to sea as well, or could we see some United States impacts? Big questions are all on the table, but so far right now, it's too far out to be telling that or anything like that. And same thing with this week right here, August 27th through September 2nd. Big questions are still going to be on that table right there for where the storm goes. It all depends on obviously the steering currents, where that high pressure is going to be, and everything like that. But no matter what, for the rest of the hurricane season, we still have a long way to go here, as we're not even near the peak of the hurricane season, as it's being next month. We're about a month away actually from the peak of the hurricane season, but still, once that peak of the hurricane season happens, we have a slow road down, and that's what we're going to be seeing. And we might be having a pretty active time of hurricane season during this general area right there. So a lot to be continuing to pay attention to very closely. So we have a lot to pay attention to right now, but you can obviously see 125 mile an hour is expected with max wind gusts of 155 mile an hour here by the National Hurricane Center update. But still, once again, continuing to watch those trends for westward trends, because that is not going to be our friend, especially for the east coast of the United States, because the more west it goes, the more impacts we could be seeing here on the east coast of the United States. But make sure you're staying tuned with your local National Weather Service, as well as the National Hurricane Center from Tropical Storm ERIN, and any impacts that could possibly impact your area. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and leave any comments down below if you do have any questions about Tropical Storm ERIN, or possibly future Hurricane ERIN as well. So make sure if you do have any questions, just leave it down in the comments. I will try to answer them to the best I possibly can, as well as following my X page down in the description down below for more frequent updates here on the tropics. I'm definitely going to be posting a lot more here on Tropical Storm ERIN, as especially the storm starts to approach some of the islands, as well as possibly even the east coast of the United States. But right now, I would just be weather aware if you live on the east coast of the United States. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.